Get out of here now! I don't care what your ticket says! This is my gate! Move, or I'll cancel the bullshit!
7:42 a.m., JFK Gate 17, first class lane, quiet. A black CEO holds a boarding pass that clearly reads first. The agent blocks him anyway, flags security, and says, "It's policy." He doesn't argue. He sets his bag down, turns slightly, and speaks into the phone. Log everything. Timestamp Gate 17. The radio on her hip crackles. A hush spreads as cameras come up. He asks one question. Which policy and where is it on system? No answer. He nods once. Ops, legal, compliance on this line. In 9 minutes, this gate and then this airline will learn what standards actually mean. 7:42 a.m. JFK Gate 17. The concourse is clean and bright, metal beams catching the morning light, floor polished like a mirror. The first-class placard sits at the rope line. A black CEO steps into frame with a garment bag and a calm face. His boarding pass reads, "First." His phone is already in his palm like a tool he knows well. The gate agent intercepts him before the scanner. Her tone is clipped and certain. She says the premium lane is for eligible passengers only. She tilts her chin toward the economy queue. She repeats the word policy like it can override what the pass says. The security officer from the nearby post drifts closer and plants his boots as if the decision is made. He does not argue. He sets the garment bag down so the handle stands straight. He checks the time on the overhead board. 30 minutes to scheduled departure. 18 minutes to cut off boarding. The jet bridge is still connected. Catering carts clatter in the background. A PA chime rolls through the ceiling speakers. He speaks only once, steady and low. Log everything. Timestamp Gate 17. He lifts the phone to his ear and says the same line again, this time to someone who recognizes his voice. He asks for ops, for legal, for compliance. He asks for the contract file and the station recording policy pulled on system. He asks for the gate audio and the CCTV angle that covers the rope line and the scanner. The radio on the agent's hip crackles. She keeps her eyes on him and calls for a supervisor. She says the guest credentials are in question. She never uses the word customer. She says premium verification. She says wait aside. The security officer crosses his arms and looks at the crowd, not at the pass. People around them feel the air change. A couple in fleece jackets slides out of the main line and starts watching. A college kid raises a phone and frames the placard that reads, "First." A woman with a stroller rolls to a stop and whispers he already scanned. The murmur builds the way water creeps across tile. He asks one question, almost quiet enough to be private. Which policy and where is it on system? She repeats that it is policy. She does not cite the manual or the line item. She does not touch the scanner. She points to the security officer again. On the phone, he gives 3 short notes that sound like checklists. Hold catering at affected gates until ops clears. Flag the flight for compliance review. Confirm whether the station is on the current bias-free service training cycle. The words are simple, the order is exact. He is not threatening, he is documenting. He is asking his team to watch the system behave in daylight. A junior employee in a navy cardigan steps from behind the podium. She looks at the pass. She looks at the roster. She whispers that the barcode is coded J for first and has a corporate tag. The agent's jaw sets and she tells the junior to step back. The junior employee does not argue, but she does not fully retreat. She stays close enough to be seen by the cameras that are now pointed at the scene. The PA announces a routine boarding call for another flight and then hiccups as someone taps the mic. The hallway feels quieter afterward. The officer shifts his weight. The agent asks again for him to wait off to the side. He looks past her to the jet bridge and then back to the scanner. He does not move. Ops comes onto his line. He asks if they are ready to pull gate audio in real time. He asks if the vendor portal shows any active service agreement with his company. He asks if the station pass policy matches the current revision. Each answer is short. Yes, yes, and no revision on file at this gate. He says thank you and stays silent again. The crowd senses a turn but does not understand it yet. The phones keep filming. The junior employee glances once at the camera, then at him, and then at the scanner as if to say the machine is waiting. He gives her a single nod that reads like, permission to tell the truth. The agent says security will remove the guest for non-compliance. The officer clears his throat and squares his shoulders. The CEO does not tense. He speaks into the phone without raising his voice. Place a hold on ramp operations for this flight until legal confirms the chain. Begin a credentials check for the incident lead at gate 17. Log the names you hear on radio. A hush sinks in. Words like hold and confirm have weight in an airport. You can feel metal and money behind them. The officer's hand lowers from his radio. The agent looks at the scanner for the first time and then back at him. She senses the system is paying attention. He is not there to fight. He is there to make the record precise. Tick-tock sounds do not play here. There is only the soft roll of wheels and the distant whine of a tug outside the windows. In 9 minutes, the meaning of the word standards will be demonstrated with receipts. For now, the camera holds on a quiet man at a gate, a pass that says, first, and a line that will not cross itself. 7:45 a.m., gate 17. The supervisor hustles up from the concourse, badge swinging, the posture of someone who believes the answer is inside their voice. She asks what the issue is. The gate agent gives a fast summary that skips the scanner and lands on the phrase passenger refusal. The security officer folds in the word non-compliant. None of them mention that the first-class code is clearly visible. The CEO stays with the phone a moment longer. He asks ops to mirror the gate display to an internal dashboard and to flag any discrepancy between the manifest and the boarding system. He asks compliance to confirm the station's training completion dates, especially the bias-free service module and the refusal of transport thresholds. He asks legal to pull the contract language for his company's corporate program, including service penalties for wrongful denial. He thanks each team lead. It is all said in a tone that sounds like a checklist being read into a flight recorder. The supervisor steps close and asks for identification again, although the boarding pass already shows his name, seat, and status. He presents his ID calmly. She looks once, nods without scanning it, and says the system is not recognizing the pass. He asks which system. She says, the kiosk system. He points, with courtesy, to the handheld scanner at the podium that has not yet been used. She pauses like someone who has been asked to show her work on camera. The junior employee in the cardigan clears her throat and says the handheld scanner is green for him on the pre-scan. The supervisor does not respond to her directly. Instead, she says they will reissue the seat after additional verification. The word reissue catches the crowd. It sounds like the seat is being taken while the explanation is still loading. On the phone, he says 2 words that change airflow. Hold inventory. Somewhere beyond the windows, a line of keystrokes freezes automatic upgrades and seat swaps for Flight 417. The algorithm stops making decisions without a human watching. He adds a second note. Tag this gate for real-time audio capture. The microphone on the podium is now a witness. The supervisor requests that he step aside while they check with revenue. He says he will remain at the rope within camera view. He is careful and precise. He does not touch the rope. He does not raise his voice. He simply occupies the square of floor his ticket entitles him to. A college kid whispers to his friend that the barcode letter is J, which is premium, and this looks bad. The friend wonders aloud if the airline will push a statement before boarding. 2 more phones rise, then 3. Not hostile, just steadily present. They become a human mirror. The security officer leans in and says he can escort the guest to a quieter area. The CEO replies that the quietest place is right here, where the record is clean and the audio is continuous. He turns slightly toward the junior employee and asks whether the scanner has logged any error code for his pass. She answers yes, E41 duplicate read, which sometimes happens when a seat is manually touched on the back end. He thanks her by name because her name tag is visible. It is a small act that places her in the record as a person who told the truth. Ops confirms into his ear that the flight's seating inventory shows a recent manual override at 7:39, less than 6 minutes ago, initiated by the agent ID logged to this gate. Compliance adds that the training file for this station is overdue by 2 weeks. Legal notes that the corporate contract carries a clause requiring immediate remediation if a premium passenger is wrongfully denied boarding due to discriminatory practice or misapplication of policy. He says, understood. He does not smile. The supervisor announces that they will open general boarding to keep the flight on time. He answers that general boarding will not commence while first remains blocked in violation of the contract and while credentials connected to this incident are under review. The sentence is bland and heavy. You can hear the airline inside it. The agent's radio pops with chatter. Someone upstream asks what exactly is happening at gate 17 and whether ramp is still clear. Another voice says ops has placed a soft hold. The supervisor glances at the jet bridge, then at him, then at the junior employee who is now openly holding the scanner like a piece of neutral truth. The officer steps half a pace back, which is what people do when a situation stops being a removal and becomes a file. He states one more request into the phone. Begin the pull of yesterday's gate footage for comparison. Check whether similar denials clustered on this shift pattern. If yes, prep a station-wide audit and temporary credential pause for decision makers tied to those events. The line on his face does not change. He is not angry. He is engineering consequences. A fresh chime hits the PA. Revenue control calls the podium. The supervisor listens, eyes narrowing, and covers the mic with her hand. All at once, the room can feel that the gate is no longer a small room. It is connected to a large one where the numbers live. The junior employee speaks softly to him without breaking policy. Sir, if they scan your pass, it will clear. He thanks her again. He looks at the supervisor, then at the scanner, and simply waits. The moment is a held note. The next action will decide whether this is a customer service hiccup or an operational event with paperwork, training, and careers attached. 7:49 a.m., gate 17. Revenue control is still on the supervisor's ear when a station manager arrives from the service corridor, tablet in hand, vest half zipped, eyes running the scene like a checklist. He reads the room quickly, phones up. Security present. A passenger with a first-class pass not yet scanned. He asks for a quick status. The supervisor repeats the line about system mismatch and passenger refusal. The junior employee lifts the handheld as if to speak. The station manager holds out his hand for the scanner. He scans the CEO's pass himself. The device chirps approval and flashes green. The screen displays the seat map with 2A highlighted J fare class, corporate tag live. He blinks once and then looks at the supervisor. The supervisor says there may be a duplicate record, E41. He asks who touched the seat at 7:39. No one answers. The crowd does not clap. It simply breathes in. On the phone, the CEO notes the scan result without emphasis. Ops confirms the green read and the tag. Compliance says they have logged the E41 and the manual override time. Legal says the contract clause is now active and the remediation clock has started. He answers with a single word, acknowledged. He keeps his eyes on the scanner, not the people. The station manager asks the agent to step aside so he can review the terminal. He opens the audit log on the tablet and sees the agent ID against the override. He asks for the reason code used. The supervisor says it was for premium verification. He asks where that appears in the manual. She cites a section number that does not match the current revision. The junior employee shifts her weight and quietly says the current revision number. The station manager nods once to her and enters it into the tablet for the record. Security adjusts his stance and asks if his presence is still required. The station manager tells him to hold position but not engage. The officer relaxes his shoulders. He understands the difference between a removal and a documentation event. The crowd senses the pivot. The heat is leaving the front of house and walking backstage. General boarding remains paused. The monitors are unchanged. The jet bridge leading to flight 417 is still in place. The door closed. A crew member peeking through the window slit and then disappearing again. In the glass, you can see the reflection of the handheld scanner, small and decisive. The supervisor asks if, in the interest of time, they can reissue the seat and resolve after departure. The station manager says the interest of time includes avoiding a compliance breach that could ground a schedule. He speaks evenly, without threat. He asks the agent whether any note was placed on the passenger file. She shakes her head. The junior employee raises her hand halfway and says she saw no note, only the manual touch. Ops speaks into the CEO's ear with a crisp update. Inventory is held. The system has flagged connected flights for monitoring. Catering has paused load on 417 pending a clear to resume. Compliance confirms that the station is overdue for bias-free training by 14 days and that a corrective plan is being drafted. Legal asks whether the airline's internal escalation list should be notified. He says, notify, but keep the net small. Keep the proof at the center. The station manager asks the CEO whether he is willing to step to the scanner now. He answers yes and takes one step, stopping at the rope until invited forward. The agent does not move the rope. The junior employee reaches for the latch and opens it carefully. The agent opens her mouth as if to object, then closes it when the station manager motions to proceed. The CEO places the pass under the beam. The handheld chirps a second time. The screen flashes bored. The station manager observes the light, then taps his tablet to record the success. He asks the agent to read back the instructions for handling a J fare with a corporate tag at first class. She quotes a line that is roughly correct and stops before the part about dignity and default respect. He says thank you and keeps his face neutral. The crowd does not cheer. It tilts. People lower their phones a few inches and then raise them again, sensing more to come. This is not a simple boarding now. This is a file that will leave the gate and travel into rooms with carpet and closed doors. The supervisor tries one last angle, saying they must ensure safety and weight distribution, and that sometimes seats are shifted for operational reasons. The station manager asks if weight and balance requested the change. She does not answer. Ops quietly tells the CEO that weight and balance logs show no such request. He thanks them and stays silent. He asks the station manager one question in a tone so light it almost disappears. Would you like proof on system? The station manager's eyes flick to the phones, then to the handheld, then to his tablet. He nods. The CEO gives a short instruction into the phone. Begin live mirror of the gate audio to the internal dashboard for ops, legal, and compliance. Tag the clip from 7:38 to now. The junior employee hears this and stands a little straighter. She is, whether she planned it or not, a witness with a name. The agent asks if he intends to board or hold up the flight. He replies that he intends to board when first is boarded per policy, and when the record reflects what happened here, the sentence is polite and heavy. It turns the moment from a standoff into a standard. Somewhere in the building, a door opens. The station's director of operations is en route with a headset and a face that means the file has reached the part of the company that counts minutes in money. The air around Gate 17 cools a degree. The crowd understands that a quiet man, a green light, and a set of logs have moved an airline an inch. And inches are expensive. 7:52 a.m., Gate 17. The director of operations steps in from the service corridor, headset snug, tablet awake, eyes reading the room like a cockpit scan, phones up. Security present, but at ease. A first-class pass that already read green twice. He nods to the station manager, then to the junior employee holding the handheld like a fact. He listens for 10 seconds without speaking. Gate audio has been mirrored to ops, legal, and compliance, and he knows it. He hears the supervisor's earlier phrasing about policy and premium verification. He hears the agent say the system is not recognizing the pass. He hears the quiet voice that asked which policy and where it lives on system. He scrolls the log. E41, duplicate read, manual touch at 7:39 by the gate agent ID. Training file overdue by 14 days. He stops on the contract clause, highlighted by legal, that requires immediate remediation if wrongful denial is tied to discriminatory practice or misapplied policy. He asks the supervisor to cite the current section governing first-class verification for J fares with a corporate tag. She quotes from memory. He asks her to show it, not say it. She cannot pull the section on the tablet. The junior employee supplies the correct revision number and reads the single line that matters. Default respect, scan first, escalate only, with cause documented on system. The director acknowledges her by name and logs the time. Revenue control pings the tablet. The director reads, then looks up. Inventory remains on hold. Catering paused. Connected flights flagged for watch. He toggles to a dashboard tile and sees the live audio capture stamp for Gate 17. The mirror is on, Everyone in the chain can hear how words were used. The agent tries a new angle: safety, weight distribution, operational constraints. The director requests the weight and balance record for Flight 417. Ops replies in his earpiece: no seat shift request, no special load. He asks the agent who told her to move the seat. Silence. He asks if she placed any note on the passenger file. She did not. The silence is not empty. It has data in it. He turns to the CEO. Sir, would you like to board now while we conclude internally? The CEO answers evenly. I will board when first is boarded per policy, and the record reflects what occurred at this gate. He is not bargaining. He is setting the standard in the simplest words possible. The director nods. Understood. The PA clicks and a routine boarding line pops for another flight, then cuts off mid-sentence. Someone has been told to keep the channel clear. The concourse shifts from noise to clarity. The crowd senses the change. Phones stay up, but the posture changes from hunt to witness. The director asks the station manager for a clean read on the handheld. The manager offers the device to the junior employee. She scans the pass. Chirp. Board. The director watches the light, then records the second successful scan at the podium for redundancy. He asks the supervisor to walk through step by step what happened from 7:35 to now. She starts with generalities. He asks her to use timestamps. She stumbles at 7:39. He writes nothing for a moment, then types 3 short notes the camera cannot see. Ops confirms that the internal dashboard now shows a compliance review active at gate 17. That status pushes a subtle banner to staff devices. The supervisor's handheld buzzes. She reads the banner and goes pale. The agent glances at her radio as if it might explain the room to her. It does not. The room is being explained by the record. The director addresses security without ceremony. Thank you for holding. Remain available. No engagement needed. The officer nods and steps back another half pace. He knows the sound of a situation that has left his lane. The CEO speaks softly into his phone. Thank you. Keep the mirror up. Archive the clip. Tag witness statements by name when possible. He thanks the junior employee specifically. You helped the record stay clean. She says, yes, sir, without looking at the camera, and the respect lands like a chair being set back on its feet. The director asks the agent for her badge number and login ID to confirm what is already in the audit log. She provides them with a voice that has lost its edge. He verifies the string, then views the access scope tied to that ID. He does not raise his voice. He does not make a speech. He simply reaches the part of the process where decisions have weight. General boarding remains closed. The rope at first is still open, waiting. The crew at the door has stopped peeking. They are listening to their own headsets now. In the glass, the reflection of the tablet shows a checklist marching forward. The director looks once more at the CEO, then at the station manager. Finish this by the book. The words are plain. The book is open. 7:54 a.m. Gate 17. The director of operations lifts his eyes from the tablet and speaks in a voice meant for checklists and cockpits. We are moving to documentation and remediation. Stand by. The sentence is flat enough to be safe on any recording. He nods to the station manager. Open the incident record. Begin with timestamps. The manager starts reading the log aloud, clean and unemotional. 7:35 pre-board set, 7:39 manual seat touch by gate agent ID ending 3-2, 7:43 call for security, 7:46 first class pass not scanned, 7:49 successful scans. The numbers land like small weights on a table. Revenue Control returns with a quiet ultimatum. If first remains blocked or misapplied, they will hold boarding to avoid a wrongful denial that triggers greater penalties downstream. The director absorbs it with a single blink. Understood. He asks Ops for the vendor portal contract summary. Legal pushes a 1-paragraph excerpt to his screen. The clause is plain. Misapplied policy against a premium passenger on a corporate program triggers immediate remediation, potential fee offsets, and targeted training before resumption. He reads it once and closes the box. The supervisor tries to reframe. The intent was verification. The director stops her gently. We verify by scanning, by notes on system, and by policy citations. Intent is not in the manual. The room hears it. It is not angry, it is design-level speech, the kind that survives discovery. He turns to the agent. Walk me through why you touched the seat at 7:39. The agent looks at her shoes, then up at the ceiling, then finally at the tablet. She says she believed the seat might need to be reallocated for operational balance. Ops feeds the director an answer in his ear. No weight and balance request? No operational balance flag. He repeats the finding aloud so the audio mirror holds it. The junior employee clears her throat once, carefully, and says the scanner read green on the pre-scan before the override. The director acknowledges her, then asks the station manager to add her note to the record with her name and time. It is a small thing that turns a bystander into a witness and a witness into a safeguard. The security officer steps a half pace farther back, almost out of frame. He understands that this is no longer a removal conversation. This is credentials meeting contract. The crowd stays steady, phones up, voices down. The concourse has learned to hold its breath. The director issues 3 interim controls without ceremony: freeze manual seat changes at gate 17 until audit completion, require dual authorization for any first-class overrides station-wide for the next 72 hours, mirror gate audio at this station to ops during premium boarding periods. Each line is practical, boring, and heavy. You can feel the system's weight shift to match the new rules. He asks the CEO if he is prepared to board once. First is properly called. The CEO answers yes and adds one sentence that circles the room without raising dust. I would like the record to show that I asked for policy, not privilege. The director repeats it for the audio mirror. Requested policy, not privilege. Logged. The PA chirps and falls silent again as if the building itself is listening. The station manager requests permission to call. First, the director holds up a hand for 5 more seconds and taps the tablet. Ops, confirmed, catering clear. Ramp, cleared. Crew, ready on door. The all clears stack. He nods. Proceed. The station manager looks to the junior employee. Call it. She lifts the handheld and speaks with a steady voice. First class for flight 417 to San Francisco, now boarding at gate 17. She does not look at the agent when she says it. She looks at the scanner. The CEO steps forward to the rope. There is no flourish. He presents the pass. The scanner chirps. The pod door clicks. He pauses a fraction, turns his head just enough to address the mic without addressing anyone in particular. Thank you for keeping the record clean. Then he walks the 3 steps that were always his. As he passes the doorway, the director taps the tablet again. Compliance review remains active. Training refresh scheduled for the station within 14 days. Legal notes: that incident leads tied to misapplied policy may have their access temporarily paused pending findings. The words are not emotional. They are shaped for forms, not for headlines. The agent's radio whispers in her ear. She swallows. The supervisor stares straight ahead. The junior employee exhales for the first time in minutes and resets the rope. The security officer nods at no one in particular and sets his hands behind his back. Before the director dismisses himself, he asks one more grounded question. Anything else the record should contain? The CEO answers without stopping or turning. Begin the pull of yesterday's gate's 17 denials and map them to today's shift. If they cluster, freeze credentials for those decision makers until retraining is complete. The director says, acknowledged. He watches the jet bridge door close, then enters 2 short commands that will become emails, then meetings, then outcomes. General boarding remains paused for 20 more seconds. The crowd is quiet in a way that only follows clarity. Then the station manager lifts the handheld again. Group 1. The room exhales, phones lower. The system, now looking at itself, continues. 758A, M aboard flight 417. He settles into 2. A hangs the garment bag and powers his phone to airplane mode except for one last note to ops over Wi-Fi as the door is still open. Mirror stays up until pushback. Archive to case file 417, G17. He closes his eyes for a second, not to rest, but to mark the boundary between a scene and a record. Back at the gate, the director of operations remains at the podium with the station manager and the junior employee. The supervisor stares at the middle distance. The agent studies the floor. The director asks for a clean readout of the interim controls he issued. Freeze manual first class seat changes at gate 17. Dual authorization for premium overrides station-wide for 72 hours. Audio mirror, active during premium boarding at this station. The manager repeats each line back. The words are not decorations, they become toggles in the system as he speaks. Ops pings the director with a consolidated dashboard tile. Gate 17 compliance review live. Training overdue flagged. Audit pull for 7 to 8 queued. He taps acknowledge. Legal follows with a brief misapplied policy impacting a premium passenger on a corporate program, triggers immediate remediation and potential fee offset. He does not react. He already knows the weight of that sentence. He turns to the agent and asks for her version on record, with timestamps. She gives it. It does not square with the logs. He does not argue. He simply adds her words to the file. In 2A, the CEO watches the crew move through quiet checks. A flight attendant pauses, attentive without fuss. Anything you need today, sir. He thanks her and asks only for water. He is not here for triumph. He is here for standards. He sends one more note over Wi-Fi to his team. Confirm credential pause for incident leads at gate 17, pending review, prep research schedule. Identify truthkeeper at station. Recommend elevation to standards team. On the concourse, the junior employee stands a touch taller as the station manager reads her statement back into the record. Handheld pre-scan green before override, observed E41 after manual touch. Successful scans at 7:49 and 7:54. The director logs her name with a tag that will later trigger an HR and ops joint recommendation. Rotate to policy standards, training lead. She does not smile. She simply nods like someone who understands that telling the truth is a job duty, not a performance. A soft alert hits the director's tablet. Compliance wants a live check. Were there similar denials in the last 48 hours at this station? He orders the pull. Ops returns 3 instances that smell like the same pattern. Premium passengers slowed, verification invoked, no scanner used, manual touches recorded, 2 with E41. The director speaks 4 words that are not dramatic and are, therefore, decisive. Freeze those credentials now. The station manager begins the process, keys steady. The supervisor opens her mouth to object and closes it when she sees the audit screen reflect the pause in real time. Inside the cabin, the CEO feels the aircraft push back. He places his phone face down and watches the wingtip trace a slow arc. The facts will keep moving without him. That is the point of systems. The pilot's voice arrives calm, routine. Good morning, folks. Short taxi today. Smooth climb planned. Nothing in the tone hints at what just moved an inch in the building they left behind. Back at gate 17, the director drafts a 2-step remediation memo on the tablet. Immediate, station-wide refresher on premium boarding standards, scan first protocol, and on-system documentation. Within 14 days, instructor-led module on bias-free service with case-based assessment. The memo routes to training, HR, and compliance with a single send. He adds a line that will save an argument later. Completion required before credentials are restored. Revenue control joins the thread with a practical question. Fee offset or goodwill credit required for the corporate account. Legal answers that the clause allows an airline-selected remedy if remediation begins immediately. Operations answers that remediation is in progress. The director adds a plain decision. Apply goodwill credit. Notify account lead with a clean timeline of corrective actions. The note is unadorned. It will travel well. The agent asks if she is being fired. The director replies that today credentials are paused pending findings. The review will determine fit, training, or separation. He does not use big words. He does not perform anger. He gives her a printed copy of the incident number and the training schedule. She signs the receipt with a hand that shakes once and then steadies. General boarding now moves. The station manager calls groups in order. The concourse relaxes from a held breath into a normal morning. Phones drop. The junior employee returns the handheld to its cradle and wipes the scanner window as if polishing a lens. The security officer nods to the director, then slips back to his post where nothing is urgent and everything is observed. At 8:06 a.m., the director steps aside to record a final note into the mirror while the case is still warm. Terminate misuse of policy at source. Freeze access when pattern emerges. Log everything. The 3-beat verdict sits there, simple enough to survive any meeting. He ends the mirror with a tap. The file saves. The building hums. And a gate that tried to write its own rules a half hour earlier now reads the manual out loud. 8:22 a.m., climbing through 10,000 feet, the cabin lights soften. He opens his laptop and reviews a short stack of emails that arrived during taxi. Ops has sent a clean timeline. Legal has attached the contract clause in a 3-line box that a board member could read on a phone. Compliance has marked Gate 17 as an active case with a live audit pull. He replies once, proceed is logged. He closes the thread and lets the system do what systems are built to do when people stop bending the rules. On the ground, the director of operations walks the station manager through the first wave of fixes. The refresher module on premium boarding standards is set to deploy by end of day. The bias-free service module is locked on the calendar for the next 2 weeks. Training has agreed to a case-based segment that uses anonymized clips from Gate 17 with names and faces blurred. The junior employee is asked to sit in on the dry run as a reader. She says yes and writes the schedule into a pocket notebook instead of her phone. A habit learned from a supervisor who believed important things deserve ink. Revenue Control posts a quiet note to the corporate account lead. Credit applied. Remediation in progress. A set of bullet points lays out the next steps in plain language. Freeze, overrides. Dual authorization. Mirror audio during premium periods. Audit pattern and pause credentials where needed. The account lead reads it twice and replies with a single line. Thank you for handling it like adults. The email lands in a folder marked Essentials, a small place where trust is measured in paragraphs that fit on one screen. 2 terminals over, a station rumor begins and then dies when it meets the record. Someone says a VIP threw a fit and got special treatment. Someone else shows them the banner on their device that reads Compliance Review Active. The word active drains the heat out of the rumor. No one cheers, they adjust. In the crew room, a flight attendant brings up Gate 17 with a colleague. Did you see that? First call. The colleague nods and says, the line that matters. He asked for policy, not privilege. That sentence moves faster than any clip. It fits into a mouth and stays there. By lunch, 3 crews have said it out loud without knowing who said it first. At headquarters, a service quality manager opens the morning dashboard and sees the Gate 17 case tile blinking. She pulls the log, skims the timestamps, and marks 2 other stations for spot checks. It is not a scandal. It is a pattern under review. She knows the difference between a headline and a repair. She adds a note that will matter next quarter. Proposed partnership with a civil rights service quality group for annual standards research. The junior employee returns to her station after a short break. She finds an email from HR and Ops asking if she would be willing to serve as a standards liaison during training. There is no bonus attached. There is a line that says, thank you for protecting the record. She reads it twice, then clicks yes and goes back to scanning boarding passes with the same quiet attention she used an hour ago. In 2A, the CEO reads a short message from his assistant. Account lead replied positively. A board member forwarded the summary with the words, steady hands in the subject. He types a reply. Please send appreciation to Ops, Legal, Compliance, Revenue, and the station manager. Include the junior employee by name. He hits send and closes the laptop. The window shows a white line of cloud, flat as a table. Back at Gate 17, the agent sits in a small room with a supervisor from training. They watch a replay without sound. She sees herself point away from the scanner. She sees the scanner flash green later when someone else holds it. There is no lecture. The supervisor scrolls to the section in the manual she skipped and reads it aloud. Scan first. Document deviations. Default, respect. The agent nods once and signs the attendance sheet. The credential pause remains in place. The next steps are clear and written in sentences that will fit into any meeting. The director of operations signs off the incident log for the hour. He leaves 3 lines for the record. Terminate misuse at source. Freeze access when patterns emerge. Log everything. The words are not dramatic. They are repeatable. He closes the tablet, looks once at the quiet gate, and walks back into a building that now hums a half-tone lower, like a machine with fewer loose parts. 10:14 a.m. Above Ohio, Smooth air. He reads a short update from ops that feels like a checklist that learned to speak. Gate 17 review active. Credentials paused for 3 IDs tied to manual overrides with no scanner use. Training calendar locked. Audio mirrors scheduled during premium windows for the next 2 weeks. Legal adds a single sentence at the bottom. Contract remediation, clock satisfied, continued cooperation noted. He replies with 3 words, proceed as planned. On the ground, the station manager walks the junior employee through her new role for the week. Standards liaison is not a title anyone prints on a badge. It is a duty. You sit in on training, you read the current revision aloud, you ask the group to show the scanner before they talk about policy. She listens, takes notes, and asks where to find the section that governs bias-free service interactions at the rope line. He shows her the page. She underlines 3 lines without color, just a pen that moves only when it counts. The supervisor spends an hour with the trainer reviewing what happened at 7:39. There is no heat. The trainer has a way of turning moments back into procedures. What do you do when a barcode reads J and a corporate tag is present? What do you do before you move a seat? What language do you avoid when a situation feels public? They practice sentences that live well on audio. Thank you for waiting. Let me scan this now. I will read the policy and show it to you. She says them out loud until they sound like they belong to her mouth and not someone else's. At headquarters, the service quality manager pushes a small proposal into the queue. Partner with a civil rights service quality group for annual standards recert with mystery shops at premium lanes. The proposal is 3 screens, not more. It lists costs, timelines, and a scoreboard for what good looks like. 0 denials without scan, notes on system within 1 minute of any deviation. Public language that cites policy by section, not by mood. The director over her adds a plain endorsement. This will prevent debates from becoming losses. In 2A, he watches a cloud shelf break into sunlight. The flight attendant returns with water and a printed note from the captain. Thank you for your patience this morning. The crew knows little beyond the texture of a delay and the sight of phones at a gate. He nods to the note and asks the attendant to thank the captain for a steady climb. He does not tell anyone what he does for a living. He does not need to make this a story. Stories bend. Records hold. Revenue control meets with the account lead over video. The call lasts 8 minutes. They review the credit, the remediation, and the training schedule. The account lead says the sentence that keeps relationships alive. We saw your house fix your house. That is enough. No public statement, just clean files and on-time flights. They end the call before anyone reaches for a second topic. At the station, the director of operations takes a short walk past other gates. He sees 2 agents practicing the scan first line with each other between boardings. He does not interrupt. He keeps moving until he reaches a maintenance door and stands there for a moment as if reading the building. He enters a final instruction into his tablet, the kind that becomes a small rule with a long life. First-class scanners must be tested at the start of each shift with a training barcode and a supervisor present. Log result. He knows it will add 30 seconds to mornings and subtract hours from afternoons. The junior employee returns to her position just as a family approaches the rope line with a question about seats. She answers it by pointing to the screen and walking them through what it shows. The father thanks her and says he watched what happened earlier. She nods once and says, "We scan first now. It is not a speech. It is a fact that fits in one breath." He reads the last email before closing the laptop. Compliance has mapped the 3 denials from yesterday to a single shift pattern. A temporary freeze is in place for those decision makers until recertification and supervised shifts are complete. He types a short reply. That is the right order. Promote the standards liaison at the station once training is live. A minute later, Ops acknowledges and adds that HR concurs. The sentence lands without decoration. A person who told the truth will get more chances to keep telling it. By noon, the building at Gate 17 hums like any building with flights to run. A child laughs at the window when a tug passes. A couple argues softly about carry-ons. The scanner light blinks and blinks and blinks. The director signs the interim report and sends it with a subject line that has no adjectives. Gate 17 remediation status. Attached, Logs, controls, training plan, credential actions, proposed partnership. It is a boring email that ends problems. High over the Midwest, he closes his eyes, not to rest, to measure. In 9 minutes at a gate, a system remembered how to be a system. No speeches, no show, just proof, process, and people who are willing to put their names next to the truth. The aircraft holds its course. The record, now made, will keep doing what it does best. It will outlast anyone's tone. 6:11 p.m. SFO. He steps into a quiet car and scans the roll-up on his phone. The subject line is dull on purpose. Gate 17, remediation status. The body is tighter than a press release and heavier than a memo. Ops confirms scanner tests at shift start are live at the station. Compliance confirms the credential freezes remain in place for 3 IDs tied to manual overrides without scans. Training confirms the refresher module has been pushed with completion required before shifts. Legal attaches the contract clause again, 3 lines that will fit on any device. He replies with 6 words. Keep the proof at the center. At JFK, the director of operations finishes the day's second huddle with the station manager. The junior employee sits in, taking notes in the same pocket notebook. They review the red lines and green lines from the anonymized clips. Red when a finger points before a scan, green when a section is cited by number. The director keeps his voice plain. This is not a performance. This is alignment with a manual. The room absorbs the tone. No one argues with a checklist read out loud. Revenue control closes the loop with the corporate account lead one last time. Credit posted. Remediation milestones pinned, training in progress. The account lead thanks them for the schedule and asks for a single-page summary for internal distribution. They send the same page that went to the network with the 3-beat standard at the top. Terminate misuse at source, freeze access when patterns emerge, log everything. The account lead forwards it without edits. It reads like a seatbelt card. Useful, forgettable, always there. Across the network, 2 stations run scanner tests and discover a handheld with a laggy reader. The lag could have created bad moments on busy mornings. Maintenance swaps the unit in 10 minutes and logs the serials. The test protocol already paid for itself. No one writes an email about it. The fix is the email. In SFO, he takes a short call from a board member who saw the recap on a phone between meetings. The board member speaks in the precise language of risk and operations. You made a record, not a scene. He answers in a tone that keeps things small. The building did the work. We just let it. The call ends in under 3 minutes. The board member will remember the length more than the words. Back at JFK, the agent who touched the seat at 7:39 signs a training acknowledgement and a schedule for supervised shifts. The HR rep explains that credential pause is not punishment. It is a pause while the system reteaches itself. She nods once and asks for the right lines to say when things feel public. The trainer points to 3 sentences on a sheet. Thank you for waiting. I will scan first. Here is the policy section on my screen. They practice until the words stop sounding like someone else's. The junior employee meets briefly with the station manager about her expanded duty as standards liaison. She will open each training with a 2-minute read of the relevant revision. She will check the training barcodes and log the reader test. She will sit in the back and raise her hand if the room starts drifting from the manual to memory. None of this appears on a badge. All of it builds a spine. Headquarters moves the partnership plan with the Civil Rights Service Quality Group to preliminary scope. The pilot is set for 3 hubs with silent audits at premium lanes. The scoreboard remains short. Scan compliance rate. On-system notes within 1 minute. Citations by section when policy is mentioned out loud. The service quality manager writes 1 line that will carry farther than a paragraph. We are not adding rules. We are adding receipts. He reaches home base and writes a last note before dinner. When the audit window closes, publish a small internal case study for managers. 1 screen. Timeline, logs, corrections, outcomes. Names minimized. Include thanks by roll for people who kept the record clean. The reply from ops lands in 6 minutes. Draft in progress. He lets the phone go dark. Evening at JFK slips into the second shift. The concourse looks like any concourse. A child leans against a window and makes a cloud with her breath. An agent checks a reader at the start of a shift and logs green on the clipboard. A supervisor recites section numbers and then sets the paper down. The words are becoming muscle. The muscle is small and repetitive. That is why it works. The director of operations signs the day's log with one last note for the file. No press response required, no external narrative. The system has what it needs. The note is not bravado. It is simply a decision to let the record do the work it was built to do. He closes the tablet and walks the length of the terminal once, passing gates that are just gates again. At 7:03 p.m. Eastern, the internal recap hits managers' inboxes with a subject that could put you to sleep. Gate 17 closeout and next steps. It lists the deadlines, the audits, the training, the credential status, and the proposed partnership. It ends with a quiet acknowledgement that names no one famous. A junior employee protected the record. She will be given more chances to keep doing that. The email closes. The day closes. The file stays open long enough to teach a few more buildings how to be buildings. Then it will sleep in a place where facts live longer than moods. 2 days later, mid-morning at JFK, the concourse looks ordinary again. The scanner lights pulse at a calm pace. Training has run 3 sessions. Attendance is logged. Signatures collected. Questions answered with policy on screen. The junior employee opens each room with the revision number and the line that matters most. Scan first. Document deviations. Cite policy by section. People repeat after her until the words move from paper to mouth without wobble. In a conference room behind the operations office, the director of operations meets with the station manager, a trainer, and a service quality manager on video. The agenda fits on one page. Audit results, credential status, training completion, partnership pilot. The trainer reports that the scan first protocol has reached 98% compliance in the spot checks. The 2 misses were corrected in the moment and logged. The director asks for the numbers to be posted at shift start. Not as a scoreboard, but as a mirror. He wants people to recognize the shape of a good day. Compliance presents the audit map. 3 events from the day before gate 17, 2 more flagged during review, all tied to the same shift pattern. Credentials remain paused for the decision makers connected to those events. They will return after training, supervised shifts, and clean readouts. Legal confirms the contract remediation clock has been met and closed. The account lead has acknowledged receipt of the internal recap and the credit. There is nothing to negotiate. The file did the work. The partnership with the Civil Rights Service Quality Group is scoped for a 90-day pilot at 3 hubs, silent audits at premium lanes, mystery shops with policy tests, a scoreboard that fits on a phone, scan compliance, on-system notes within 1 minute, policy citations by section when spoken aloud. The service quality manager says a sentence that lands without friction. We are not adding drama. We are adding proof. The director gives a small nod and assigns an owner for each hub. Ownership beats enthusiasm every time. That afternoon, the junior employee meets with HR and ops in a small office. She sits straight, hands on a notebook, eyes clear. They offer her a formal role as a standards liaison for the station for the next quarter with a small stipend and time carved out of her shifts for training support. She is not moved to tears or speeches. She asks what success looks like. Ops answers with the same 3 lines that now appear at the top of every deck. Terminate misuse at source, freeze access when patterns emerge, log everything. She writes them down and underlines the last word once. At SFO, he wraps a meeting and checks the network dashboard. The Gate 17 case shows closed on remediation and open on training until the last session completes. He scrolls to the pilot proposal and taps support. He forwards a short note to the director and to the service quality manager. Good work. Keep the proof at the center. Then he puts the phone away and walks to his next room without an entourage. The quiet walk is part of the posture. Claim nothing. Let the system speak. Evening at JFK brings the second shift. A new agent runs the scanner test with a training barcode. Green. Logged. A supervisor reads the section numbers and asks a hypothetical. What if a passenger refuses to step aside? The trainer answers with a calm line anyone can carry. Show the screen, cite the section, keep your hands down. If it escalates, call for support and keep the audio clean. The room does not clap. It absorbs the instruction like a handrail. The agent who touched the seat at 7:39 sits for her second supervised shift. She follows the manual. She scans. She cites sections by number. She places notes on system within a minute when a stutter occurs. She is not asked to apologize in public. She is asked to show the work that replaces the mistake. By close, the supervisor signs off on a clean shift and schedules the next one. Across the network, 2 stations borrow the training deck. One finds a handheld with a failing battery. Another discovers a habit of saying premium verification without scanning. Both fix their issues before the afternoon rush. No headlines, just small repairs clicking into place. The director of operations closes the day with a short note to managers. The Gate 17 remediation is now a template. Use it when the room tips. Do not make a scene. Make a record. He includes a 1-screen summary with timestamps, controls, and outcomes. He adds the acknowledgement line that names a person without turning them into a symbol. A junior employee protected the record. She is now our standards liaison. Give her space to do the work. He reads the note once more and deletes a sentence that sounded like a slogan. He leaves the plain words. Plain words travel better. He sends the note and watches the distribution list absorb it in seconds. Night settles over the terminal. Cleaning crews move like tide. A late departure boards without fuss. The handheld chirps. A passenger thanks an agent for showing the policy on screen rather than describing it. The agent answers with a quiet line that has begun to live on mouths. We keep it on system, it keeps us honest. In his hotel room, he opens the roll-up one last time before sleep. The numbers are where they should be. The controls are where he left them. The pilot is funded. The names are spelled right. He closes the laptop and turns off the light. The day does not end with a flourish. It ends with a file that will outlast a dozen retellings. That is the point. Systems remember what people would rather forget when mornings get loud and afternoons get long. This one will remember cleanly. 3 weeks later, a Monday that smells like coffee and floor polish. JFK wakes like any large machine, gently, then all at once. The scanner tests run at shift start without anyone announcing them. Green lights, serial numbers logged. The training barcode goes back into the drawer with a click that sounds like a habit. Compliance posts the station's running numbers on a single screen. Scan first adherence at 99%. Notes on system within 1 minute at 96. Policy citations by section trending up in spot checks. No wrongful denials. No E. 41 tied to manual touch during premium boarding. The chart is dull in a way that makes accountants smile. At headquarters, the pilot with the Civil Rights Service Quality Group is live at 3 hubs. Silent audits ran over the weekend. The report is 4 pages and reads like an operations manual wore a suit. Findings are small and useful. 2 lanes with signage that confuses visitors. 1 station with a habit of using the word verify as a stall before scanning. Fixes applied in 48 hours, logged with photos and timestamps. The partner adds a line in the margin. You are treating respect as a procedure, not a feeling. That is how it sticks. The director of operations chairs a short review with legal, compliance, training, and service quality. They accept the partner's notes verbatim. No debate. They convert them into changes on a checklist. Training adjusts the deck. Signage gets a new template that points to the scanner first. The internal audit cadence is extended by a month, then set to repeat quarterly. A quiet policy addendum goes out. When you say policy out loud, cite the section number or show the screen. That sentence will outlive everyone on the call. The junior employee sits in the back of a training room and reads the revision number, as she always does. She now carries a small stipend and a schedule block called Standards Liaison. The station manager stops by and hands her a letter with 2 signatures. Ops and HR. It names her acting lead for policy standards during the pilot. She thanks him and folds the paper once. She does not pose with it. She puts it where important things go. Into a notebook with pages that do not forget. The agent who touched the seat at 7:39 completes recertification with a supervised week and 2 clean audits. Her credentials are restored with restrictions that fall away as clean shifts accumulate. She is not paraded or punished in public. She is required to show the work on system. She does. The lesson is not dramatic, it is repeatable. Revenue control and the corporate account lead meet for 15 minutes. They review the pilot, the training completion, and the early numbers. The account lead uses the same compact language as before. We saw your house, fix your house again. They close without public statements. They agree on a quarterly check-in with one screen of metrics and named owners. In SFO, he leaves a meeting room and reads the network roll-up on his phone while waiting for an elevator. The Gate 17 case sits in the archive with a green tag. Remedied, trained, audited, templated. The pilot shows early lift on two measures that matter. Fewer delays, caused by front-of-house stumbles, and fewer refunds tied to misapplied policy. He forwards a short note to the director and the service quality manager. Keep the proof at the center. Expand the pilot if the next silent audits hold. He pockets the phone and takes the next elevator that opens. No one notices him because nothing in the note asks for attention. By late afternoon, a quiet thing happens that counts more than a press release. A new hire at the JFK podium recites the line to a traveler in a hurry. Let me scan first, then I'll show you the section if anything is off. The traveler nods. 30 seconds later, the pass chirps green and the moment disappears into the hum. That disappearance is the win. The service quality manager compiles the first monthly template from Gate 17 for the network. It is a one-pager, a tidy timeline, 3 controls that turned into policy, the training cadence, 2 charts, and acknowledgments by role. At the bottom sits the sentence that has become the spine. Terminate misuse at source, freeze access when patterns emerge, log everything. She sends it under a plain subject that travels far because it does not beg to be opened. At dusk, the director of operations walks the concourse once without stopping. He notes the posture at podiums, less finger pointing, more screen sharing. He hears fewer policy declarations and more section numbers spoken calmly. The building sounds like work, not theater. He allows himself one thought phrased like a checklist. Inputs corrected, friction reduced, risk managed. He steps into the operations office and signs the quarter's first station standards memo. It contains a small promotion line for the junior employee. Standards liaison, JFK, Q1, Q2, extended with mentor duties during onboarding. He writes a short, human note beside the formal text. Thank you for protecting the record. Keep doing exactly that. Night flights lift into the dark. The scanner lights keep their quiet metronome. The partnership's auditors finish a last pass through a hub and send 2 photos of corrected signs. The network sleeps with its eyes open, as airports do. A system that once bent under a mood now holds its shape under a clock. In his hotel room, he reads the memo that made the liaison role official and the partner's margin note about respect as procedure. He replies to both with the same 5 words. Proof first, people stay safer. Then he puts the phone face down and looks out at a city that is mostly lights and a few moving dots. The day has no headline. It has a record. The difference is why the next morning will be easier for someone who does not have a camera or a title, only a pass that says first and a building that learned to behave. Quarter close, a Friday with steady rain on the terminal windows. The network dashboard shows small green checks arranged like runway lights. Gate 17 sits in archive, templated and teachable. The pilot with the Civil Rights Service Quality Group posts its first formal scorecard. Scan first adherence across the 3 hubs at 99%. On-system notes within 1 minute at 97%. Policy citations by section spoken aloud in 8 of 10 sampled interactions. The report is quiet and specific. It does not congratulate. It documents. At JFK, the station opens the day with a 2-minute ritual that wasn't there a month ago. Test the handheld, log serials, read the revision number, and remind the room what lives at the top of the deck. Terminate misuse at source. Freeze access when patterns emerge. Log everything. No one rolls their eyes because the lines are attached to a week when the building nearly wrote the wrong story. Memory does the work that slogans can't. The junior employee walks the concourse early. She checks the placement of the new scanner first signage and the clarity of lane ropes. Her badge now includes a line that reads Standards Liaison. It is small type. It is enough. She stops by Gate 17, glances at the handheld, and leaves a note in the log that the reader window needs a wipe. It is as close as this day gets to poetry. In a back office, the agent who touched the seat at 7:39 finishes a final supervised shift. 2 trainers sign off. HR restores full credentials with a tail note. Clean shifts sustain access. She nods, tucks the paper into a folder, and returns to a podium where the scanner beeps at a polite rhythm. No speeches, just a job done to spec. Revenue control meets with the corporate account lead for the quarterly check. Credit recorded, remediation sustained, training complete. The account lead uses the same sentence, pared down until it is almost a shape. We saw your house, fix your house. The call ends early because there is nothing to debate. Proof traveled, trust followed. At headquarters, the service quality manager briefs a small group on expanding the pilot. The plan is dull in the best way. 2 more hubs, same scoreboard, same silent audits, same expectation that respect is a procedure that can be taught, measured, and corrected. Legal adds that the contract clause, which nearly became a headline, has been turned into 3 internal triggers that now fire before embarrassment. Ops adds a note that the scanner test has already prevented 6 would-be incidents this month. The numbers do not care about moods. They care about inputs. He walks into a boardroom with a view of a gray city and a screen that shows 5 tiles. Remediation, done. Training cadence, audit cadence, partnership status, outcomes. He speaks for 6 minutes. No drama. 1 sentence lands and stays. We did not manage an incident. We redesigned a small part of the system so the next traveler does not need a camera or a title. A director asks if the cost was worth it. He answers yes without pause. We paid for fewer arguments, fewer refunds, and a reputation that can survive a morning. The board moves to the next item. That is the goal. Make the right thing boring. By afternoon, Internal Comms publishes a 1-screen case study titled Gate 17 Template. It is the same page managers have already used: timeline, controls, training, audits, outcomes, acknowledgements by role. At the bottom sits the spine again, unadorned. Terminate misuse at source. Freeze access when patterns emerge. Log everything. The page prints cleanly. It fits on a clipboard. It lives in the place where people look when they are in a hurry. He sends a final note to the director of operations, the service quality manager, and the station manager. Keep the proof at the center. Promote standards quietly, reward truth publicly, and let the files speak when voices get loud. He copies no one else. He closes his laptop and pockets his phone as if the object were heavy, not with attention, but with outcomes. Evening comes to JFK. A family lines up at first. The agent smiles, raises the handheld, and says the line that now lives on mouths. Let me scan first, then I'll show you the section if anything is off. The pass chirps green. The moment disappears into the machine, which is where success belongs. Voiceover. Final lines. The ones that travel. Hospitality is not a smile. It is a standard you can point to under pressure. Titles change, moods swing, cameras come and go, the record stays. If this story found you at a gate or a counter where someone made policy a private language, remember the 3 beats that put a building back on its rails. Terminate misuse at the source. Freeze access when patterns emerge. Log everything. If you want more clean fixes and fewer loud scenes, stay with us. We make receipts, not revenge. We protect the people who protect the record. And we measure respect, the only way it lasts, as a repeatable procedure that makes the next morning easier for someone you will never meet.